Hello there, guys, and welcome back to my channel for our live reaction and analysis of Chelsea 1, Legia Warsaw 2. We are through to the semi-finals, but oh my God, how? How on earth did that happen? Because not only did we lose today, we also turned up with neither on our strongest 11 outside of, well, not maybe our strongest 11, but way too many starters. Cole Palmer, Nicholas Jackson. I mean, Reece James, he's arguably just a backup DM now because we don't have anybody else. My God. And then we proceed to lose. So far, we've been absolutely perfect in the Conference League. Every single game was won. Now we couldn't even get a draw. We lost. We are through to the semis, like I touched on. We don't know our opponents yet because they're currently in extra time. But currently, Djurgården would be through, Swedish side from Stockholm. But I am joined by a new guest to many of you, a new guest to arguably me, because me and John go weirdly way back, weird internet stories, how it goes, how you meet people, back in the day, Chelsea fans. And then we randomly watched a game of football once in Berlin, where he lives. I think you still live there. See, we don't talk that much. We've been trying to make this happen for years. So, John, finally you're here. Thank you very, very much. Unfortunately, it's not the best time. But since, ever since the last 3 years of the new ownership, there hasn't really been a good time, has there?
No, it's certainly hard work at the moment. That was, God, trying to be diplomatic. He was disappointed. Let's put it like that. Yeah, I mean, to lose as well. I mean, the game was won after the first leg, pretty much. I think you'd say, wouldn't you, 3-0. So tonight couldn't really win, but yeah, to lose, it just, especially with the way the atmosphere is at the moment, you feel around the club and the team, it's like they really didn't need this to get through to a semi-final, and it almost feels anticlimactic.
It really does, mate. I mean, it tells you everything you need to know about the game, really. That Chelsea's full-time post picture is a picture of the away fans. I'm surprised they didn't use the one where they set the whole place on fire with as many pyrotechnics as Stamford Bridge may have seen in its history. You know how English fans often go on about you can't do this in England and whatever? Well, Legia Warsaw just proved you wrong because they took about 300 flares into the ground and lit them all at the same time. And quite frankly, it was fantastic. Shame, obviously, that the way the public think about pyros and pyrotechnics. Of course, it wasn't shown by anybody, but there you go. By the way, just this moment, Lyon just made it 3-2 in extra time against Man United. So that would be quite funny if Man United are at least, making us feel a bit better by being even worse than us. But
Spurs won, though.
Yeah, Spurs did win, which is annoying, but well, what can you do? It's funny if they lose a final. I mean, you got to think of the positives.
the heartbreak, yeah, I guess so.
Exactly. But mate, you brought up something a minute ago. You brought up the atmosphere. Obviously, we'll deep dive into today's game, but where do you stand on the atmosphere at the moment? Enzo Maresca, we've heard boos again whenever the ball was going backwards. We heard jeers. We heard people singing attack. Are we heading towards a repeat of all the repeats that happen to Chelsea because we sack the manager every 18 months, no matter what happens and who is in charge, no matter who the owner is, no matter what else is going on? We will never, ever get to see a manager last 2 seasons again.
You'd hope not, but I mean, it's a really bizarre situation because we're through to a European semi-final. We're 1 point off the top 5. I mean, 5th will get a Champions League spot now in the Premier League, and yet it feels almost like a disaster. That's certainly the feeling I'm getting from a lot of supporters at the moment. I wouldn't quite say it's a disaster, but it certainly does feel underwhelming. The problem is Maresca doesn't help himself. He is quite hard to relate to, I think. We've had a lot of managers down the years, and the ones who really didn't get it or didn't have any connection with the fans, you think like we actually didn't perform that badly. I mean, you remember Sarri, we won Europa League and we finished 3rd that year, and he was massively unpopular because he just didn't connect really in any way with the fans. And Maresca just feels the same. Pochettino, for all that he's got his Spurs history and we started poorly and that kind of thing, you still felt that he had more energy than Maresca does, and I think that's making it worse. Like I said, the results
absolutely. I
aren't
mean, the
absolutely
energy
terrible.
thing.
But
The energy thing is weird, isn't it? Like the whole thing just falls apart. I mean, I've spoken. Obviously, I have a podcast as well. By the way, guys, check out John's podcast, Bundesliga Diaries. If you're at all interested in Bundesliga coverage, we always talk about Bundesliga as the Farms League, but really, we just wish that all the players we signed were half as good when they play for us as they are in the Bundesliga. So maybe you'll find out some interesting bits about as to why those players work better over there than they do for Chelsea. But if you don't already know as well, me and Pyce also do a podcast called Chelsea Unfiltered. Take a look at that. Link is down in the description. Our latest episode was out on Tuesday, 2 days ago. But what I wanted to get on is, I think I tried to go back to this analogy where it's like in January, with our January transfer window, for me, we essentially changed career mode setting from professional to legendary, because I still just can't understand what our January transfer window was. Like, we needed strengthening. We didn't do that. And then we let go our backup left back. We didn't choose to recall any midfielder when we knew Romeo Lavia was never fit and available. And then we also decided to give away the worst, or for us, the better of the two number 10s. And now we're still stuck with Nkunku, ruining everything that happens on a daily basis at this football club. Like, how he gets to start, how he started over Tyreek George today is an absolute disgrace. I mean, John, you work in football. Where do you stand when it comes to tactics, when it comes to managers having principles, sticking to a way of doing things? Do you believe in, well, at Chelsea, you don't play a certain way because the fans don't like it? Or do you think, well, there are managers have their ways of playing, some are successful, and you're trying to find the best way to get success? Where do you stand when it comes to tactics and philosophies in terms of managers? Because I think that's the biggest kind of issue that we have, that Chelsea fans just aren't on board, or the majority of them, or too many of them, let's say, just aren't on board with what Maresca is trying to do. And when you have this kind of toxicity against what your own manager is doing, when there's jeering, when there's groaning, every time or nearly every time you pass it backwards and you try to build against an opposition trying to defend with two deep blocks, with a block of 4 and then a 5. I don't know, man. It just feels like these people want Jose Mourinho back, but are moaning that we're not attacking better. I'm like, well, we weren't great at attacking back in the day. Big difference is back then we could counter, now we can't. But yeah, where do you stand on this kind of discussion of principle, I suppose, when it comes to football and managers?
I mean, it's important to have a clear idea of what it is that you want to do and how you want to set up your team. I think that is important. Nobody seemed to be complaining when we were winning every week. It felt like, back in the autumn, when supporters were singing, "We've got our Chelsea back," because we'd won a few games in a row. It didn't seem to be an issue then. I mean, it's the results, isn't it? Ultimately, it's the results. You could even argue that Maresca's not really the object of the subject of the anger. Really, he's kind of the proxy of the owners who have consistently made bizarre decisions for the last 3 years. You mentioned the January transfer window, and the Joao Felix transfer, the whole thing kind of encapsulates absolutely everything about the idea that these lot have, or lack of. We signed him. No, hang on. We loaned him. Then we didn't want him. Then we wanted to sell Conor Gallagher, so we bought him. Listen.
Well, hold on. First, we wanted to sign a striker who then randomly failed a medical. And then we were like, yeah, but we so badly want to sell Gallagher. We'll take this other guy who we don't actually want, but we'll take him anyway.
Who's actually doing all right, by the way, at Porto. He's actually looking like a pretty good player. Then we signed Felix. Listen, I'm not his biggest fan, but he played a role and he filled a hole. He was our backup number 10. He started in the Europa League. He scored a few goals. He had a couple of decent games in the Premier League started. He wasn't that bad. I mean,
he was trying. Like, you can say about him whatever you want, but he was putting in effort. He was tackling. He was pressing. He was tracking back. He was doing everything that people criticize about him, really, other than scoring goals, I suppose.
Yeah. I think that's always been his problem since he left Benfica, on it. But and then we load him out. We need a number 10. I'm sure we'll get to Palmer at some point, but Palmer looks tired. He are tired in terms of his energy and ability to influence games, but also he is so far, or has been so far, our best player that seems to be weighing on him. Not many, no one's really stepping up to help him, or hasn't really done on a regular basis, and feels like that's weighing him down as well. And then, like, the guy we had to replace him, who was the direct replacement for him as backup, we then loan out. It's just, like I said, it encapsulates it. Now, the transfer window hasn't helped.
We paid over 50 million to have less than 12 months of his services.
Yeah.
Because we paid 11 million pounds for the first 5 months. And now we paid, 45 million for the permanent transfer, but we decided to get rid after 6 months, give him a terrible loan, which deteriorates all his value. And now we don't know what to do.
Yeah. So, and honestly, when he comes back, he'll probably be in the squad for the first 6 months of next year. He probably will.
You know what I've heard? That supposedly Benfica want him, because obviously Benfica also at the Club World Cup, so they want him already for that. Honestly, I wouldn't at all be surprised if he ends up going back there, and we probably try to use it to get some sort of other kid from there over somebody else. I wouldn't be surprised, if I'm being honest. But let's take it back into tonight's game. Obviously, we won the first leg 3-0. You touched on it earlier. Essentially, we put everything to bed there. And then we went into this game, and you're like, well, we're 3-0 up. We've, as much as we kind of ruined our Premier League situation already with the fact that we bottled it again against Ipswich, and by far the easiest game out of our difficult run, we couldn't win either. So kind of it almost doesn't matter anymore. But we were 3-0 up going into this game. You were expecting, academy debuts. You were expecting young players. You were expecting, well, at least bloody Tyreek George. But no, not even Tyreek George makes it into the starting 11. We go with Nicholas Jackson, Cole Palmer, Christopher Nkunku, and Jadon Sancho as our attacking four. And frankly, it's a bit of a joke. Now, for Palmer and Jackson, John, I guess the logic was maybe to try and help them gain some confidence. But we've been trying to do that, especially with Palmer, since the Copenhagen game, and it hasn't worked out. So I don't really know why we keep doing this. All we keep doing is making them tired and almost kill their confidence even more and more and more. Because when you start a player to give them confidence, but then like with Jackson, you sub him off at half time and he just didn't do anything, you just make the whole day worse. Like you played him for 45 minutes for absolutely no reason. And then you just took him off and didn't even give him a real chance. Lyon, by the way, now 4-2 up at Man United. It is going absolutely wild. But yeah, behind that, Reece James in midfield. He's the backup DM nowadays with Lavia never being available, and Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez can't play every single game. Dewsbury, all the usual meh. Josh Hutchinson was nice to see.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, Jurgensen, man. Jurgensen. But John, before we go into details about some of these players, what did you make of this lineup? Were you also very surprised at the fact that we went so strong after being 3-0 up already? And to top that off, not only did we go strong, but then we also lost. It doesn't get worse than that, does it?
Yeah. It was stronger than I expected it to be. I don't think we could probably 3-0 up, so I don't know. But it's a quarterfinal of a European competition. Treat it with, a certain amount of respect, even if it's a competition that we don't want to be playing every year. So perhaps a half and half situation where you've got a couple of the, A team, I guess, let's say, playing and a little bit more balance. But yeah, I mean, Palmer and Jackson, I was surprised to see both of them play, if I'm honest.
Yeah, because what are we going to do? Are they not going to play on Sunday? Surely they will.
No, but they have to. I mean, regardless of whether Jackson is out of form, we did look lost without him up front, which perhaps says more about the team. I like Jackson. Don't get me wrong, but he's not world class. So he'll have to play. But with that team, you're thinking, I don't know, maybe part of Maresca's thinking was, it was obviously clear before kickoff that the attendance was going to be pretty low. I believe it's a record low, actually, in the end.
Yeah.
We drew 2-2 at the weekend, which is a really disappointing result. Maybe he's thinking, let's try and build a bit of confidence, build a bit of steam, as you said, bounce back quickly, and that just didn't happen. We kicked ourselves in the foot within the first 10 minutes, and that kind of set the tone for most of the game, really.
Yeah, I mean, on the first 10 minutes, frankly, we should have been 1 or 2-0 up by that point because Nkunku had that huge chance. Palmer had that huge chance. Palmer had the rebound from Nkunku's chance as well. But we didn't take those, went 1-0 down soon after. But just to confirm, yes, it must be a record low attendance. Like, that is wild. Outside of COVID times.
A record attendance this century, I would assume. I think in the 80s.
Yeah. Well, obviously, but yeah, it's 29,000. Doesn't look great when you had like a few thousand Legia Warsaw fans. Honestly, to be fair to the shed end, I heard some Chelsea chants sometimes, which I certainly didn't during the Ipswich game. So big up to those.
They were doing safe standing, weren't they, or like the singing section?
Yeah, exactly. For some reason, they weren't allowed flags for this one. Maybe because. For some reason, UEFA didn't allow Legia Warsaw flags, so that's why we weren't allowed flags either, I suppose. But yeah, we were playing away, still no noise. I mean, I get that, but honestly, it was not as bad as some other times. Ricky asks, has Maresca lost the dressing room? Now, honestly, the fact that this dressing room losing is a thing and the whole player power thing I find it such an annoying topic that I almost don't even want to engage into a question, has a manager lost the dressing room? Because it's a thing that shouldn't be the case. Like, even when we say, I've seen people, like, you can think of Maresca what you want, but people are now saying Maresca is at fault for Palmer being bad. No, Palmer can't hit the barn door right now. That's got F all to do with Maresca. If Palmer can't shoot, then Palmer can't shoot. It's got nothing to do with the manager's doing when he's stood in front of goal and he shoots 3 yards wide, when last year he was rifling it in the top corner every time. I don't think it's that direct. Now, Taiwo says, hi, Laurenz. I don't know about you, but I feel empty when we score goals. It is the bare minimum against these lower league teams. Legia Warsaw are not a lower league team as such, but I get your point. I am all for backing managers, but Maresca ball makes me want Poch back. People are not happy, are they, John? 29,000 people at the ground. You see these reactions from people in the chat. Maresca rid Poch's wave and has lost all momentum because he's clueless. Okay. Poch's wave, I don't know about that, but sure, maybe. Where do we go from here? Right? Because it seems that the owners are very adamant that we're not going to get rid of Maresca. Certainly not right now. Certainly not. I can't imagine between the Club World I can't imagine between the season and the Club World Cup that we'll change manager, because that seems a wild point in time to do it. So and then you have a few weeks off, 1 week of preseason, and then the league starts. So there isn't really a point in time to change your manager this summer. That's probably why Real Madrid are doing what they're doing, with seemingly, changing out Carlo Ancelotti after next week's Copa del Rey final. So whoever the new guy is, whoever they'll get, and I don't know what they're going to do with Xabi Alonso, because he's not going to come in the middle of the season. So I don't know how this is going to work out. But I feel like it makes sense because you give a new manager time to prepare for the Club World Cup, and then there is no preparation. But see, like Table initially said, he's all for backing managers. I don't like sacking managers, right? And it annoys the living daylight out of me that at Chelsea, we don't even know if we can ever say, but give the manager a second season. So many people hype up Luis Enrique at the moment. And if he had his first season at PSG at Chelsea fans would have hounded him out long before he would have gotten to this stage that he's at PSG now. So it's like, but at the same time, I also get the point of people saying you can't just say don't stop sacking managers. When you have the wrong manager, you need to get rid of them. You can't just sack them to stop sacking them from a principle point of view. I'm so stuck in it's a revolving door, isn't it? I was the same with Poch. With Poch, I was always Poch out because of Spurs, and I was like, fuck this guy, why is he even here? And then towards the end, I was like, well, we've got some momentum now. It would be probably smarter to keep him. But then they sack him anyway, or he leaves, whatever way it was really going. And now all that really meant is because these sport directors didn't really manage to complete the transition of the team at all, because they kind of halted buying good players all of a sudden, and we wasted a summer transfer window with hundreds of millions on players that really aren't good enough. And then we did a January and made our squad even worse. So we used a transition year, and rather than to still scapegoat the guy we were scapegoating last year, we sacked him and got a new guy to scapegoat, which is kind of just a bit of a waste of time. And I feel if we sack him now, we will get someone worse, maybe Liam Rosenier from Strasbourg now, and just do the same thing all over again. Like, people want Maresca out, but people don't want to come in who these people will hire. And that's why I'm like, that's why I still think there's no point in sacking him. But if the stadium toxicity gets the way it is, there comes a point where it's inevitable, isn't there? So, but where do you stand in terms of the summer as well? Like with the Club World Cup, do you agree that this kind of means you shouldn't be sacking a manager this summer?
Yeah, I mean, with Maresca, I'm trying to be as positive as possible. And part of me is trying to hope, I guess, that he's been told by the board that this season is kind of a carte blanche situation. As long as it's not absolutely disastrous, which it's not. Let's be realistic. Like I said, we're 1 point off the top 5 and we're into a European semi-final. So it's not an absolute disaster. As long as it's not disastrous, you'll get next season. So at times it feels like he's using this season as a bit of a training season almost, to try and figure out what he exactly wants to do with certain players in certain positions. And then next season, with the right additions and a couple of players coming in, then he will know exactly what he wants to do, and we'll go from there. So, I mean, regardless of whether
will those right additions come? First of all, do we have the money? After the money we've already spent, probably no Champions League at this stage, no front of shirt sponsor still. Where are these additions coming in? Or are they just going to be more 20-year-old additions who don't really strengthen us immediately?
Well, we've already got 2 midfielders / wingers coming in, haven't we? In Paez and Esteval. Esteval, from what I've seen of him, looks a very good player. So I'm sure he'll
looks very good. But I don't want to put too much pressure on him.
No, of course. No.
18.
But he's going to be first team squad straight away. He's going to be involved. Andre Santos has been playing pretty well at Strasbourg from what I've seen there. So that's another one. We don't probably need a striker. We definitely need a striker, regardless of what you think of Jackson. Somebody to go alongside him at least.
Looks like it's going to be Liam Delap, doesn't it?
Which I'd take it. I'd absolutely take that. I think that would be a brilliant signing. We need a centre half, and
I can't believe you haven't mentioned goalkeeper yet, bro.
Yeah, we need a goalkeeper. Those are the 3 positions we're absolutely desperate for. I mean, we could
with a left back as well, because we don't currently have a backup.
Yeah.
I mean, unless Vega stays, but I don't see that happening.
A backup left back you could have, yeah, I guess, but I think that's lower down the list of priorities compared to
there you go. I mean, the goalkeeper situation, right, is something to speak about today anyway. Maybe I can find a picture that we can use appropriately on this. But when Sanchez plays, he is awful. When Jorgensen plays, he is awful. The only one that seems to be halfway decent is, Georgia Petrovic, who we decided to get rid of after he already looked decent for us. But we were like, no.
Yeah.
We will send you away anyway because you can't pass. And now none of our players can pass, and he has the best passing stats in Europe. So I'm not finding an appropriate picture just yet, but my God, it's not going well for our goalies, is it?
I mean, I've lost track of how many goalies we've actually got on the books, to be honest. There's the guy getting in there, Penders, Sladina. Where's he now? God, I forgot where he is.
I reckon he's going to be another Van Ginkel or something, Slanina.
Yeah. I mean, Sanchez is just. I think with a lot of the players, I'm probably putting Nkunku in this group now, but with a lot of the players, I feel like there's something positive there. I feel like there is potential for them to grow for most of the players in the squad, but Sanchez, Badiashile, and Nkunku, I just think are absolute. The top of the deadwood tree, and all need to they should be the absolute priority for us to get with starting with Sanchez, because honestly, he is frustrating is the nice way to say it, but I just don't understand why. Yeah, but then I can understand why he carries on with him, because when Jorgensen plays, he's doesn't hardly fill you with confidence. So
no, and honestly, I'm not even mad at him for giving the penalty away. I don't mind. No. I get him trying to go for that. The striker nicks the ball away. He collects him. It is what it is. And I'm not going into penalties expecting my goalkeeper to save it. Even with Kepa in goal, I didn't have that expectation, as much as he had a great record. But honestly, I already was celebrating him saving it, and then he somehow palmed it into his own goal anyway. I've never seen anything like it. Obviously, I don't want to use pictures by this outlets, but it wasn't findable anywhere else. Look at how much of a hand he gets on it. He palms it from his left hand onto his right hand into his own goal. I mean, again, I'm not expecting anyone to save a penalty, but when you have two hands on it to not keep it out, it's a bit of a joke. And
That's
honestly,
not
a
even
sign of where we are with the goalkeepers.
That wasn't even his worst save either. It was the one where it was a shot from outside the box and it like bounced. Probably bounced 2 yards in front of him, and he doesn't even try to catch it. He just arms it back into danger. Yeah, again, I don't know. Confidence, I don't know, but it is mental how poor our goalkeepers have been really this year. I mean, both of them have been so poor.
Sorry, bro. So I've just looked at my phone. This Man United Lyon game has gone absolutely mental, by the way. Let me bring this up. So I know this is our game. I'll switch to the other game in a second. What on earth is going on? These lot were 4-2 up a second ago, and now it's 5-4. Look at the minutes. 114th, 120th, and 120 plus 1. What on earth is going on? This is the wildest
thing. And we're sat here talking about Robert Sanchez.
Literally, how on earth is this happening?
Yeah.
I mean,
fair play.
Oh my god. Yeah, I mean, fair play. Yeah, fair play. But there you go. Yeah, on Jurgensen, what can I say? He bottled it. But at the same time, it's like the season. It was already so adamant all season long that he wasn't gonna ever I don't know, man. Obviously, it can always happen a couple of a season later or whatever. But he was starting goalkeeper for Villarreal last season. He wasn't like playing in the MLS like Petrovic was before we signed him. He was playing in a top 5 European league, and he was the starting goalkeeper for them. The fact that he wasn't really given a real chance this season, in my opinion, I already don't really care about Jurgensen. I'm like, well, he will never get a chance. Just get rid. But the problem is, you can at least sell him. Sanchez, you can't sell because he's flipping old. Well, not old, but old for our players, right? But if I bring up these stats, right, from today's game, we had 70% possession, had 2.0 XG, and still had less XG than our opponent, who had 2. I'm not sure what you think about XG as you write about football, as you talk about football. I'm not sure. Like, some people dislike it, some people do.
Yeah. It's funny you mention this.
Oh my God, man. How can... To lose on XG against Legia Warsaw at home with this 11 is a joke, isn't it?
We'll talk about this on my Bundesliga Diaries podcast about expected goals and how much weight you put onto it. I think over a longer period of time, it does show up certain trends. I think it gives you an idea of how a certain player perhaps is performing over a longer period of time, or a team. In individual matches, it's kind of hard to wait because it only takes into account the actual chance, not the conditions, not where it's taken, not who's in goal, not who takes the shot, not even, I don't even think it takes into account how many people are in the way of the shots. It's just where it is on the pitch. Isn't it 0.9 for a penalty?
I think so, something like that, yeah.
So it's like, in a one-game situation, I don't know how much how much it counts, really. They have plenty of chances, though. I mean, it's hardly like, regardless of the expected goals, they had chances, and they could have scored another. I think if we'd have lost 3-1, I don't think you'd have been... We had plenty of chances ourselves and weren't clinical, but just on their point of view, if they'd have scored another, you wouldn't have complained, really. It would have been about right.
You wouldn't, absolutely. I mean, we supposedly had 5 big chances, they had 4. You mentioned a good point, though, in terms of XG. It's always the thing where I'm like, well, in theory, say Cole Palmer should have a much higher XG on the very same chance as the Legia Warsaw striker, because Cole Palmer should, in principle, be better at finishing. So isn't that part of what XG is? And then when you compare a League 2 team to a Champions League team, it goes a bit wild. But then if it's a similar level of players, like Conference League is maybe not the best judge of our games, but when we're, say, playing Fulham, I think you can read into it to an extent, but I don't want to make this a whole XG conversation either. At the end of the day, it's just passing. I saw someone earlier, and I'm going to scroll back to it. It's Flynn. He says, can anyone actually give me a footballing reason to keep Maresca, except we can't keep sacking managers?
Yeah.
I mean, can you, John? Can you?
I would say that we have been more stable than we were under Pochettino. It feels like it was a little bit more wild in terms of the fluctuation across the season under Pochettino and some of the results we had. I mean, even before that great run we had towards the end where we won those games, we got battered by Arsenal just before that, So it wasn't like we've been a little bit more stable under Maresca, if I'm trying to be positive. But we are so slow. Like the tempo of the game is just so slow. I can almost forgive the lack of chances, of clear-cut chances, if we're moving the ball quickly, keeping the opposition on their toes, at least making them have to defend well. But we're not even doing that. It's so easy to defend against, and you'll see it. Like, especially Sanchez does this more than anybody. When he receives the ball, it feels like every time he receives the ball, we have to fully reset, go back into our formation, and only then can he then release the ball and we start another attack. There seems to be no improvisation. There seems to be no players thinking on their feet. I know you mentioned earlier about, it's not Maresca's fault that Palmer can't convert some of the chances. And that's true to an extent. But he's killed him. The way he's setting up the team and the way we play, Palmer's not the same player because I can only assume he's being asked not to be the same player.
But why was he the same player first half of the season then?
Honestly, I don't think by that point Maresca had enough time to truly implement what he wants to do. I think those first few games, it was kind of work in progress, and a little bit of we ended the season quite well last year. There was still a little bit of that left over. As time's gone on, we've gone more and more to this style of slow possession. Let's keep the ball as much as possible, and he seems to be worse off for it. The way I'm seeing it, it only seems to. You count the number of players; it really seems to help. Cucurella, Cucurella's had a really good season. Fair enough. He looks improved under Maresca. Fernandez, I would say, to an extent as well, has been more consistent under Maresca this year.
Yeah, he got better at box crashing for sure.
Yeah.
I guess Caicedo has had an amazing season, but I'm not sure if that's necessarily a Maresca thing.
He was great towards the end of last year as well. Exactly.
So was Cucurella, to be fair. Now, for me, bro, for me, this whole idea with passing too slowly, I'm 100% on board with. But then what I kind of think about then, right? I think about what if we try to do the exact same thing we do, but quicker passing. Now, sure, it would help us create some more chances and better chances sometimes. But what would it also do? It would mean we give the ball away more. And don't we then inadvertently almost go back to what happened on the Poch last season, where we always play too quick, give the ball away, and then get hit on transition when we are completely open in shape in midfield. And I'm like, when you think about which teams actually play quickly, you think about Pep Guardiola, same issue as we have, where you pass it too slowly, you want to find a gap. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And then you think about the teams that can actually play quickly and are successful with it. You can kind of I can think of two. One's Liverpool, and one is now PSG. But PSG last season had the identical issue to us, where whenever I watched, for example, you're an expert, I'm not sure if you know him, John, but he speaks a lot about the French league. And every single time I saw him tweet about PSG, is like, they're so slow, they have no idea what they're doing in attack. And now you watch them now in the Champions League, they look like the best thing you've ever seen. And I'm like, so this is what happens. But when a manager wants to play a certain style, rather than in the beginning to focus on, okay, we need to play quick always, you only play quick once you're good enough to do it. Because if you play quick, but you're not good, you just give the ball away and run into transition moments. And it's like, I know that's what the fans want, but they only want it until we get turned over every single time. You know, where it's like, this is not a footballing reason, but I almost go back to what I said before in terms of, honestly, as a Chelsea fan, it makes me scratch my own eyes out at the fact that I cannot sit here and give you an example of whether it's a good idea or a bad idea to stick with a manager. Because every single time we've had a debate of, do we need to get rid of the manager? We did. We've never not. So I don't even know if it's a valid option or not. You know, other clubs have sometimes stuck with the manager, sometimes haven't. But we just always sack them because I think we can't have the same merry-go-round. We get a new manager and then either it goes with like Poch, you have a bad start and get better towards the end, or it's like this and you start well and then you get worse. It just seems like it's a never-ending cycle, and I feel like we need to break that cycle eventually. The only kind of change to this in my head would be if we sacked Maresca, if we also get rid of the sport directors. But I don't think that happens anyway. So then I'm not really sure if it's worth it.
Yeah. I mean, perhaps that's the only thing you could say with PSG. You mentioned PSG. PSG play like pretty direct. I mean, it's fast, of course, but they use the fast wingers they've got and the skillful wingers, Barcola, Doué, Dembele. They're direct. That's not what Maresca wants to do. Maresca doesn't want to be direct. I mean,
but is that because we've now watched PSG play Liverpool and play Aston Villa in an open Champions League tie, or would PSG, when they play Legia Warsaw with a block of 5 and a block of 4, would they also end up playing slowly because there's no space?
But you can still move the ball quickly.
I'm not even saying you're wrong. I'm saying I genuinely don't know the answer.
I get what you mean, but you can still move the ball quickly, and that's to be honest, that's not the way Enrique plays. And I mean, there was a massive change for the way Barcelona played before Enrique until when he came in. You know, it was less about the tiki-taka passing the ball and a little bit more direct, get certain players on the ball. Let's get them on the ball quicker in those advanced positions. So, you know, kind of a tangent anyway. The only, as I said, the only thing you can perhaps say then, the reason why, you know, it's not working and we're still, you know, it is so slow is that he's at least trying to get the players to be comfortable playing possession style football. And that has to be done slowly at first before you can go, okay, now we can start moving the ball quicker because we're more comfortable in doing the base. As a positive, I'm just trying to think of any positives at all. And that's all I can really think of. With more time, I would say with another pre-season, but let's be honest, he ain't going to really get that because he's got to go and play this fast of a tournament in the US. Maybe that'll be.
Who knows how many of our players come back now? They just get randomly detained entering the US. So
I'll be honest. I'm not sure how many are going to go. I'll be really interested to see the squads that are put out for this because I can't see all of the teams putting out all of their best players.
Well, we have American owners. I'm pretty sure we will turn out with the best team, but I'm not sure about others. I agree with that. With that. Now, just to quickly touch on this comment here by One Verse, he says Maresca practically killed Nkunku, Gusto, Palmer, Sancho, Jurgensen, and now James. Now, Sancho has looked, in my opinion, better this season than he has for the last 4 seasons of his career. Yeah, Jurgensen, fair enough. James, I actually think James, other than one bad backwards pass, had a good game today. He played some nice over-the-top balls that, frankly, Sancho, Jackson, Palmer, Nkunku all should have just done more with, but they didn't. I actually think James, in that sense, played some nice balls today. And Nkunku, let's be honest, Nkunku killed himself. I mean, I've never seen a lazier player in my whole life. And honestly, that's partly why we were lost today, because we played with a man down, because we stalled Nkunku. But whose fault is that? Well, partly the sporting directors, partly the manager. So we're back to the same very issue. The only positive I can look at is bloody Josh Hutchinson down there. But, I mean, it's another example, or maybe an interesting person to talk about with you, John, as you obviously have covered the Bundesliga for a few years now. Where do you stand on Jadon Sancho? And where do you stand on, you know, where he's been at Chelsea recently? Obviously, he got 2 assists at Legia last week, scored that worldie on the weekend, even though it wasn't enough for a win. Got another nice assist today. To be fair, we asked him to get better. He did improve his form since then, to be fair to him. I think he had a good first half of the season, then struggled a bit as the whole team struggled, and now he's found a bit of form again. I think it's ridiculous that we are thinking of paying a £5 million fine, because I'm like, just buy him. for £25 million is cheap as shit. And even if you don't like him, you can sell him for 30, 35 next summer to like Dortmund or something.
I like him. I mean, he's not the player he was at Dortmund, that's for sure. And perhaps
Yeah.
the Bundesliga's style suits him a little bit more. Anybody who goes to Man United, let's be honest, or enters their orbit ends up getting damaged. And he's one of the latest examples of that. He's been all right this season. He's neat, tidy, generally. He just doesn't do enough, I think. He doesn't do enough with the ball when he has it. I want to see him be a bit more positive. And
yeah, he needs to do more like he did against Ipswich.
yeah. Or, against Spurs, like shoot a little bit more from distance.
But
look,
I can't expect him to shoot from the right. I'm not going to see Jadon Sancho score worldies with his left foot. It's not going to happen. So if he plays on the right, I'm not expecting him to shoot, to be fair.
No, but not just about shooting. I don't mean that. But I mean also like, the passage you're looking for, trying to break the lines a little bit more, which he seems to be reluctant to do. You mentioned Sancho, but the comment that was there about James, I honestly have to agree with. I do not understand what Maresca is doing with him. Our midfield, first choice midfield, is the only area of the team that does not need any work. Fernandes and Caicedo are hopefully there to stay for the foreseeable. Okay, yes, Lavia is a sick note at the moment, but I'd like to think that he can come out of that, and next year, he can add to that. If you've got Andre Santos coming back as well, then that's another player who can.
And don't forget, we signed this kid Asugo as well, who is supposedly really good.
Yeah, exactly. And Reece James won the Champions League playing right back. Like, I find it bizarre, to be honest. He was great during that time. He's been a really good right back for us. I don't understand why he now needs to be a midfielder. Honestly, this is the frustration I have with Maresca, is he seems to think he's cleverer than he is. He's gone and managed under Pep Guardiola and seems to think that he's now the new Guardiola. He had a great half of the season with Leicester, who had the best squad in that championship by an absolute mile. Go and speak to Leicester fans about the second half of that season. And the same thing, by the way, a change in style, slower, tempo, etc. And they weren't happy with him. They went up because the squad is amazing. But he seems to think he's better than he is. I've got to be honest. He's too early into his career to be making some
my
decisions
thing
that
is
he is
again,
making.
like when you mention Leicester, right? My thing is again, I'm like, but it was one season. I don't know if it does get better the second season or not. Like that, but that's the problem with hiring such inexperienced managers. You don't have a sample size to look at. As for Reece James, right? I don't know, man. Now, first of all, right now, I think I understand playing him as a midfielder because he doesn't have the fitness to play every week. And because of our midfield situation of Amugu, who's barely counts as a player, and Lavia's fitness, you're like, well, who is the back? Like, you're right in terms of the starters.
Yeah.
We don't need any doing, but Caicedo can't start every single game. So then you need somebody else. And right now, Reece James is filling that role. I agree with you in terms of with the signings we've made, with the players that should be coming back. And if Lavia ever stays fit, Reece, I don't see how he's going to play midfield much. But the whole he's a right back. I'm like, yeah, but we don't play a right back. So it's like, even if he wouldn't play midfield, you still wouldn't be seeing him as the kind of right back you'd want to see him as. But I'm also
I get that, yeah.
I'm like, I've spent 3 years watching Reece James be the best right back in the world, and every time he runs 2 yards, pull his hamstring. I'm like, I'd rather him keep it simple in midfield than him be injured permanently. Like, I get that people are frustrated with him in midfield. I get it. But I'm like, I'm still less frustrated with that than him being injured.
Okay, I do get what you're saying, and it pains me to say this because he is a Chelsea boy, been there for years, come through the ranks, won the Champions League. So it does pain me to say this, but what's the point in him then? Seriously, what's the point in him if he's going to be? Is his goal to be backup centre mid? Like, seriously, if that's the goal, we might as well sell him. We might as well sell him and make some money.
But who are you
That's going to be
selling
the
him to?
idea
There's
for
no
him.
one paying anything for. Well, to be fair, now
Someone
he's
will.
stayed fit for a
Mate,
little
someone
while.
will.
To be fair, but
Seriously, someone will easily pay 50 million for him because he's a very, very good player.
now I actually agree. Now that he was fit for like 2 months straight, which is kind of unheard of for him. On Reece James, by the way,
I don't want that.
One of the quotes that came out after the game was actually from him saying, "I understand the frustration of the fans. I understand people come to games to see excitement and to see goals. Today we were frustrating to watch." Now, John, this is another interesting conversation that we could have before we start rounding this out fairly soon. Where do you stand on supporters and supporters voicing opinions and supporters not supporting and being frustrated? Where do you stand on that? Because the whole principle is of people come to games to see excitement and to see goals. I just disagree with that from a whole principle because I'm like, if you want that, go see a blockbuster in the cinema. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. If you want real shit that sometimes goes well, sometimes doesn't, go to football. Do you know what I mean? It's not a pony farm. It's not a circus. You don't get everything you want. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but this is a problem with English fans in England who I live in Germany, so I've got a different point of view on this than perhaps a lot of people do. But here, the fans support their team for 90 minutes. Often, it's absolutely irrelevant what happens on the field. You sing for your team for 90 minutes because your team is a part of your community. It's different relationships with the clubs, I guess, in terms of your members. Your voice actually does have an impact on what happens. And that just isn't the case. I've got to be honest. I feel like a lot of Chelsea fans are entitled, so entitled, seem to forget exactly what Chelsea are. Until Abramovich took over in 2003, Chelsea had spent, let's say 96. Chelsea had barely won anything ever. We'd had like a couple of years in the 70s and we won the league in 1955. Like Chelsea haven't been a team that's won trophies for our whole history. Most of our history has
late
been
90s mainly, really.
Yeah, it has been not winning trophies. But now it seems that these 3 years have been disappointing compared to what we had under Abramovich. Okay, they have. But last year we finished 6th and reached a cup final. And this year we're in this European semi-final and we're 6th at the moment. Like, compare that to where we were, like those 20, 25 years, 30 years ago, when people would kill for that. So, talk about, like you said, seeing goals and stuff like that. You go there to support your team. And I can't understand how many avenues supporters have to share their frustrations. And being at the game is the best way to do that. But I feel like, I don't get to go to that many games anymore, living in Germany, football, be covering football and 2-year-old son makes it difficult to go. But I did go over to go see the Wolves game in January, and the atmosphere was terrible, honestly. And it wasn't just a case of, things aren't going our way at the moment, and we feel it was just Sanchez was getting booed when he had the ball and away when he had the pass. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not a fan of his, but at the stadium, that is not what you should be doing. We support the players, get behind them, and that will have a better impact than what seems to be happening at the moment.
Do you think partly the fans are purposely almost trying to sabotage, in the sense, not sabotaging, they want their team to do badly, but as in they don't like the owners, they don't like the managers there, so they're like, yes, what we're doing is toxic, yes, what we're doing isn't helping on the pitch, but as much as we want to be better, we don't think we're going to be any good enough under these anyway, and whether we now lose one more or draw one more because we're a bit toxic, it gets us closer to them getting rid. But that's the problem. I just don't think that happens. So you need to just don't we all want the team to do better and get better results? And you're only going to get that if you try to help them. I'm not saying you can't boo at halftime. I'm not saying you can't even boo at the end after losing to Legia Warsaw. You can. And the fans and the players can deal with that as well. But during the game, don't affect them. I just think I just don't think it helps. I really just don't think it helps, honestly. I mean, I wanted to. Where was this one? Yeah, your Polish girlfriend. You've not had a good night if you've got a Polish girlfriend, mother. But there you go. But this from one verse, I'm like, yeah, this has been an issue for a few games, but it wasn't an issue today, and it wasn't an issue in the last game because Palmer played central 10. He didn't play off the left. So I'm like, people are having criticisms at Maresca for things that happened 3 weeks ago. This was our principal shape today. Because we were very attacking. We played basically a back two, Achimpong inverting into midfield next to James, and then we had a five behind the striker. Now, Nkunku dropped very deep in here, and then Palmer did follow over to here a lot. Now, obviously, I'm aware. But in principle, Palmer was a central 10. If Palmer now moves to the left, this is a Palmer problem, not a Maresca problem. If Palmer is playing central 10 and moving too far in either direction for your liking, then this is not the manager. If they put you in the central 10, they're not telling you go left more or go right more. They're just telling you play football. It's like we know that that's what Maresca says to Palmer. Palmer isn't like struck with instructions to man mark some guy. No, it's just trying to find space. I don't like him off the left either, but when he plays central 10, I can't tell the manager, well, stop playing Palmer on the left when he didn't do that today.
He needs a break anyway, Palmer. Palmer needs a real bit of time off.
I don't know why he played, to be honest. I can only assume to get some confidence in, but it didn't work, did it?
It didn't work, no. I mean, previously in the past, he has looked good coming in from the right, in my opinion. So, I don't think it's the end of the world, to be honest, if that's what we were to do with him. Maybe try it out, because where he's playing at the moment doesn't really seem to be like it's working.
I need to touch on this as well, but EPL 12. He didn't. Because his best games, statistically, were the last 6 games last season, where he did exactly the same thing under Poch as he does for us, playing right number 10. Just to be very clear about that. Because Poch made exactly the same tactical switch that Maresca did, with the 3 centre-backs and Cucurella inverting into midfield, and then Palmer coming, because we then used Gusto as an overlapping right-back, and Palmer played right 10. So he didn't do his, like, he was great at right wing at the beginning of the season, but his best football, he played right number 10, which Maresca used him in mostly the season. Again, when he uses him off the left, it doesn't work. I 1,000% agree. But these are just the small things where I'm like, we just pretend like things didn't happen. We conceded more than 4 goals on 5 separate occasions last season. That didn't happen once this season. And you're telling me it was so much better under Poch? Like I said, we conceded more than 4 goals 5 times. Think about that.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not saying it's great now, but I'm saying let's not pretend it was great last year. That's all I'm saying.
I agree with you, because there were plenty of times it was really frustrating, but it was more exciting to watch, wasn't it? It was more fun to watch.
That is 100% true.
Honestly, I'd rather have that than this at the moment, because this is like it's tepid. It's tepid football. It's like I said, it feels like the players have been slowly told like to have actually no mind of their own. We've got to play this system
I agree with that. I genuinely think that's a problem of modern football, if I'm honest.
It is true.
It's honestly, it's part of what kills football. VAR and that are the 2 biggest issues for football nowadays, in my opinion. But
time wasting as well would be another one. But
and time wasting, to be fair, it's a big point as well. Although I'm like, wasn't that always a big issue? Time wasting, I don't know. I wasn't always alive. But by the way, a lot of people have joined. Shout out to Lewis for the raid. Big ups, everybody. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the like button. That would be massively appreciated. I mean, Max is not happy with us. How many more excuses do you have for Maresca? It's mad you won't say a bad word about him. I say plenty of bad words about him. But what I'm trying to get at mostly is, do you trust these people who first turned up with the Spurs legend and now turned up with a championship manager to hire a better manager? And then when you're asking yourself that question, you're like, is it better to have stability, which is what this club has lacked for, well, up to a decade now, or more, arguably, but certainly the last 3 years we've lacked any sort of stability. Let us have stability, and then once we've stabilized, get a different manager if it's not working. But we need to calm it down. We can't get a new manager now who's arguably not going to be any better, maybe worse. What benefit do we get from that? Like, I've even been reliably told that even players aren't happy with the constant change at the club. Like, again, I get everybody's frustration with Maresca. I really get it. But in my opinion, there's no positive outcome of sacking him in that logic, because I don't think the replacement becomes better. So therefore, I'm like, why should I sit here and just constantly slate him? I'm just trying to look for positives. I know there's negatives. Trust me, guys, I know. But everybody else talks about the negatives. There's not many people that try to still look for the positives. So that's what I try to do. Not because I miss the positive, but because I'm like, plenty of other people spend a lot of time, focusing on the negatives of Maresca. That's kind of where I'm trying to come from. But man, it's so frustrating, John, isn't it? Because it's Conference League. We're playing Legia Warsaw, and you're like, whether we won tonight, whether we lost tonight, it's like the frustrations that I feel at Chelsea, the indifference that I feel at Chelsea sometimes when we bottle it, when we just can't get it right. Part of it is obviously the difficult run as well. You almost know we're barely winning a game for the remainder of the season in the league. So, I don't know, man. Then you've got the stupid Club World Cup that who knows how that's going to go. It's probably going to get injured. It's just nothing. It's just very, there's not a lot there to make you upbeat at the moment, isn't it? And I think that's why the crowd attendance was so low today. And I think that's why the crowd are reacting the way they are.
Yeah.
Partly because of what's happening right now, but partly because they feel like, well, the season is almost over. We've got a really difficult run, so we're barely going to win any more games from here on out. So where is the positives coming from? They're like, probably going to finish 7th or 8th. If we win the Conference League, at least make Europa League, but we miss out on Champions League. So I get it. But honestly, until the sport directors or the owners change, go on.
I can understand what you're saying, but like, we're 1 point behind the top 5 and we're in a European semi-final. Like, I know things aren't going
European
well.
semi-final is a nice way of putting it.
It is, mate. And I know it's not the one we'd all like, but there is also a chance for Chelsea to make history if we win the Conference League this year by becoming the first club to win all of them. It's still a European trophy, and at the very least, it guarantees us Europa League spot for next year if we fall down the league, which is not impossible. You know, I'm not naive to think that we'll stay there, but you know, we need to get behind them, and that has to come from those in the stadium ultimately, because they're the ones that the players are going to come in contact the most. I can't sit here and tell fans how they should act when they're paying good money to go and watch us every week. So, you know, I don't want to do that, but I think
that's okay. John doesn't want to tell you that. I do. I think if you're a fan, I don't give a shit. You paid a lot of money. If you don't want to support, stop spending your money and let someone else spend it that will actually sing. Because I have absolutely no time for people that think I'm going to the cinema here, I'm getting entertained. No, this is we're all like, a team is a family, you know, one life, one love, one club, and everything. But then as soon as things aren't going well, we're booing them constantly. No, bloody support.
You know what, mate? That's the thing. That is the thing. I remember that Wolves game when we beat them 6-2 at their place. And supporters were singing, "We've got our Chelsea back," because we'd won what? By that point, I think it was 3 or 4 games in a row. Yeah. That's what they were singing.
Southampton away when we won, what, 5-0, 5-1? They were singing it then as well, weren't they?
We've got our Chelsea back. That's all that matters. That's what I mean. Like, you know, talking about, that's all anyone gives a shit about, or what it seems to be a lot of supporters give a shit about. As long as we score more goals than the other team, it doesn't matter what else happens around that. That's how it seems to come across. So, you know, I think, like I wouldn't say that's what you'd have to do. I would agree with you in how I think that fans should go, and that's how I'd like to see supporters support the club. But yeah, they need to get behind them at the moment, because, you know, we've got. Looking at those fixtures there, what have you got? I mean, we've got 1, 2, 3 home games.
I mean, let's look at them, right? We're playing Fulham away. Give me your predictions for each of these games. Fulham away, what do you reckon?
Points. 1-1.
Exactly. And that's the best of it, in my opinion, that we're going to get, right? Everton at home, beatable, but more
2-1.
Difficult than Ipswich, who we couldn't beat. So, what do you reckon? Win?
2-1.
2-1. We can do that. But like I say, no guarantee. Might also be a draw. Might also be a loss. Liverpool at home. Now, depends on if they've already won the league or not.
This is the thing.
Yeah, go on.
If they've won the league by then, I think we'll beat them. If they haven't,
or will we get a 1-1 draw and pat ourselves on the back for playing well again?
maybe. But if they get a result, if they need a result, then no chance.
Yeah, no chance. Then you go into the next one. Newcastle away. We might as well not turn up. Wave the white flag. Don't even go.
The point to be a great result. Let's put it that way.
12:30 kickoff as well. There's absolutely no point. Like, honestly, we might as well stay home and rest their legs. Seriously. United at home. Now, we beat them last year with that 4-3. Otherwise, we never beat them. So what do you reckon for that one?
We absolutely have to win. I mean, when you're looking at like the fixtures, the fixtures left to get us to the Champions League and where the points are going to come from, that has to be like absolute banker. Like, we have to win that game if we're going to get into the Champions League. I thought that about Ipswich as well, to be honest, though. So look how that turned out. But honestly, I think we'll beat United. Trying to be fair.
I bloody hope you're right, bro. I bloody hope you're right. Forest away, again, it's a bit like the Liverpool one where it's like, if they're in a certain situation, we might get it. But I'm also like, if Forest have top 4 or have top 5 secured by that point, that means, in my opinion, we have nearly no chance of still making it. Because I think currently our best hope of still making it is Forest dropping out.
I don't know about City, you know.
I mean, it is true, but it's still City, though, man. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. Don't forget, Forest could be in an FA Cup final the week before that as well. So,
True. That might help. That might help.
Right.
But it's still away. You know, we haven't won an away game in all of 2025, bro. Well, in the league, mind you. But like that, imagine we finish this season and everybody's going to talk about how we haven't won a league away game in this year. Like, that would be wild.
Yeah, it wouldn't be good. It wouldn't be good,
yeah,
but we're not there yet.
Cucurella being our top goal scorer. It feels like that Thomas Tuchel season all over again, doesn't it? When Jorginho scored the pens and that was it.
Yeah, a little bit.
My God, man. I mean, obviously we all want to win the Conference League, so we can say we're the only team to have won all the trophies. That will be nice. Hopefully we can do that. In my opinion, that is how we're going to qualify for the Europa League. I don't even think we'll finish 6th now. Because I just think the running is too hard. As in, like, maybe we'll beat Everton. Maybe we'll somehow get lucky against Fulham. But there's no way we beat both, in my opinion. There's no way we beat Forest and United. It's like maybe one, maybe the other. And because of that, now having dropped behind, we're now 5 points off Newcastle. I just don't really see it happening. And I said this before. I think if we win the Conference League, I think Maresca stays. If we don't win the Conference League and don't make at least Europa League through the league, I think then he's gone. But I think as long as he wins Europa League, I think then he ends up staying. Now, maybe if we go in the Club World Cup, if we somehow get knocked out in the group stages, I think then they might sack him. But I don't think that will happen. So, you know, I'm not particularly concerned about that.
I don't care. I mean,
you would care because everybody would talk about how embarrassing we are.
Yeah. I mean, maybe that, but I think it's a money making scam in it, really, for these clubs. So,
well, initially I thought it's basically a trial for the real World Cup, so the Americans can sort their shit out. But nowadays, I'm not really sure if that has anything to do with it. The trophy is cool, though. I've got to give them that. The trophy is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, you know, I guess there is that. Now, I think, ladies and gentlemen, it's about time we wrap this one up. Hey, we're through to the semi-finals. I'll take that. Unfortunately, we're not playing an Austrian side, which would have been quite nice. But we're now playing a Swedish side. So there you go. Cheers, Rapid Vienna. As always, Austrians useless at football and can't be, you know, relied upon for anything. But, you know, there you go. Still, semi-finals, Fulham on the weekend. Fulham away is usually a good place for us in the grand scheme of things. But, you know, someone said it before the game. The only person happy about this Chelsea lineup tonight was Marco Silva because he saw us turning up with Jackson and Palmer. These lot. Supposedly, Maresca said after the game that the reason he played them is to give them, you know, match fitness after injury. I'm like, okay, but we're playing again in 3 days. If we had a game on Monday, I'd be like, fair enough. But we play again Sunday, so I don't really see it. Yeah, Sammy, we don't do player ratings anymore. Maybe we'll bring it back as a, you know, one-off or whatever for the whole season, but we don't do full player ratings after streams anymore. They just started to drag a bit too much. Sorry, John, you were trying to say something. Go on.
No, I was just saying bring him on from the bench then. Give him half an hour at the end of the game.
That's what I'm saying. Would have been better anyway. Like they would have gained more confidence from that against a tired Legia Warsaw at the end. There you go.
Yeah.
But why can't we just employ a world-class top European club MD CEO? I'm not sure what MD in this context stands for, but I don't know.
Managing director.
Maybe. But the reason is they don't want that, because if they hire someone like that, they will have their own opinion and they will not let the owners do what they want to do. Because we should be signing an experienced striker. We should be signing an experienced centre-back and not Tosin for free from Fulham. We should be trying to get like Marquinhos out of PSG or something like that. You know, that's what we should be doing. But we're not doing any of those things. You know, look at Barcelona with Lewandowski. They've got 17-year-old Joao and 37-year-old Lewandowski, and it's working brilliantly.
Yeah, because you need a bit of both. Like, what I would say to people watching, like any Chelsea fans who would be silly enough to listen to us, is stop hoping for them to go out and sign like a Luis Enrique or a Hansi Flick when he was available. It's absolutely not going to happen. They aren't going to do it. It's just absolutely not part of how they see how this club should be run. So forget it. Just forget that. Honestly, if you accept those kind of things, it'll all become a little bit easier.
You can't even get a front of shirt sponsor, man. How do you think they're going to get any of these people? Do you know what
I don't think they're even interested. They seem to think that they've got this. They have to do things this way, and that's the way it's going to go. I mean, we can only hope that they get it right at some point. But that's the way they're going to go. I can't. All these long-term contracts and stuff, I can't see how they can go in a different direction, to be honest. So
no, because we've spent so much money. Even if we wanted to change direction, now we can't. Because if we wanted to change direction, those direction changer signings, they'd be the really expensive ones. And now, because of how much money we spent, now most likely not making Champions League, we will not be able to make those signings with financial fair play and PSR rules. So we've put ourselves in a catch-22 situation where we can't even get out of it now anymore, which is the most shocking thing about this ownership, really. No one gets a club the size of Chelsea completely debt-free and then somehow manages to turn us from European champions to a joke in the space of 3 years. It's crazy. Like our squad, we've spent starting to approach £2 billion, and we have one of the most average squads I think we've ever had, ever.
And you still need another 4 or 5 players.
At least, that's 4 or 5 players to what? To make top 4 securely. If we want to challenge Liverpool, we need like a new squad. For me,
we're miles away from
Palmer and Cucurella are the only 4 players that are actually good enough.
I'll probably go a little bit more than that, but I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
Yeah, I mean, I class Jackson on the verge, depending on how the team plays. Reece, depending on fitness. Lavia, depending on fitness. But I don't think any of the defenders are good enough. The Kobel can be, but isn't right now, in my opinion. Fofana is never fit. And let's not even talk about the goalkeeper. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Either way, there are numerous players that you need to. I mean, honestly, Liverpool. God, we're miles away. We're miles off Liverpool. But again, because Liverpool and Arsenal as well, who were up and around there, have got a mix. You can't. I mean, I know. Even when Alan Hansen said it all those years ago, you can't win anything with kids. Even Man United had like a few experienced heads. They had a few here or there. Just going out and playing effectively, in football terms, children and expecting it to get results at the moment is naive. The only thing that you can, like I said, hope again is that these players that are now those inexperienced players are at some point are going to become the experienced players.
Yeah, but the problem is where they're getting the experience from. That they're not learning to win. They're not learning from other winners. They're learning to be 6th and be average and get booed most home games. So I'm not really sure if it's going to be that the transformation or the development is so beneficial. Sorry, say again.
They're probably learning about the pressure. They're learning losing shit. They're probably learning that.
But they didn't learn how great winning is.
No, that's true. A couple of them have won, I guess. Fernandez. But then, honestly, it does bring the point back, doesn't it? Fernandez is one of our best players. and he is also one of the very few players who has won something at the highest level.
Yeah. And
Most
he's
of
also
them
one of the few that seems to have standards and set standards for the people around him and shout at people when they're not doing things right. Everybody else is just like nothing.
We should sign more South American players, to be honest, because
except in autumn, it's a bit of a stink after every international break. They're back jet lagged and you basically can't play them on the first game. That's always a bit of an issue, especially as both of our midfielders are from there now. But in general, I'd agree.
They have more fight. They have more fight. They seem to have more born passion.
Yeah, I mean, we could also, I don't know, sign some Albanians or something. I'm sure they're passionate enough, but I'm not sure if they're any good. So there's probably more good South Americans. Easier to find. There you go. John, where can people find you? Of course, we spoke about already the Bundesliga Diaries podcast. It's linked down in the description. Go check it out. Is that your main bit to check out, or is there any other place where people can find your stuff?
Yeah, I mean that's the main thing really. Bundesliga Diaries. We're on Twitter, Blue Sky now.
Just quickly, thoughts on Bayern going out yesterday?
Yeah, I mean Inter are a good team, you know. Bayern haven't been really at their best this season throughout the whole. They've been a little bit inconsistent at times. They aren't the Bayern that we used to know either, really. They didn't play too badly across 2 legs. They had enough chances, I think, to win it, but they didn't. Kane, certainly in the first leg, missed a few. He did score yesterday, though. But I'm not a massive Bayern fan. But Dortmund, I felt Dortmund's, they put up a good fight against Barcelona. They weren't that far off doing it in the end. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm just a little bit scared that Arsenal might win the Champions League, and I feel like Inter might be our best hope of stopping them. But I mean, PSG could, but I just feel like it's still PSG. PSG love a ball. Now, of course, Arsenal do as well. But if you beat Real Madrid the way they have, it might change your luck. You know what I mean? So I'm a little bit scared. As for the Bayern game, just for my input, I think if the home fixtures were swapped, I think Bayern would have gone through. That's how narrow this game was. I think that having the home advantage in the second game played a big factor. I know Inter won in Munich, I know, but I still think knowing that you have the second leg at home plays a huge factor. And also how much Bayern were willing to open up in the first leg because they know the second leg is away, so it's going to be more difficult and stuff like that. But there you go. It's an interesting semi-final. It's 4 teams from 4 different countries. It's quite exciting, Just
I think there'll be good games. I think we'll have some good games. I do think that the winner will come from the Inter Barcelona semi-final, if I'm being honest.
Hopefully you're right.
Yeah.
I don't like Inter at all, by the way, but if we're having to stop Arsenal, anything's good.
Honestly, if the 4 left, Inter are like best of a bad bunch, aren't they? I personally got nothing against Inter, so yeah, they would be my favourites.
It's just a kid thing, isn't it? One day you decide between AC and Inter which one you prefer, and I prefer AC. So there's no going after that.
Fair enough.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe. Hit that like button on your way out; it will be massively appreciated. Chelsea bottle it, but thankfully we were good enough, or they were bad enough last week, that we're still through to the semi-finals against Djurgården from Stockholm in the semi-finals of the Conference League. I didn't check actually the other Conference League results. Are Betis through and these lot?
Yeah, Betis against Fiorentina, and then Djurgården.
Like stoppage time, extra time as well. No, they didn't. I'm waffling. But they only drew 1-1 today. And then Fiorentina 4-3 in aggregate. Bloody hell, against the Bosnian team. So none of them are really any good. But neither are we. So, that's why we're in a Conference League. So we're really well placed. Exactly. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for watching. Up the Chelsea, upwards and onwards. As I like to say, backwards and downwards. And we will see you next time.
Cheers.